Even I lose sight of the fact that the first couple uploads on this channel were experiments for whatever effects and apps I was using at the time. The very first one being a hella basic piece of animation. Roll it. Simply riveting. But I do love me some animated stuff, films, webtoons, TV shows, so in this latest volume of Pocket Packs, that's what you'll get. So go grab your favorite plushie and enjoy the show. I enjoyed Super Mario Bros. Exactly as much as I hoped I would, which isn't saying much, mind you. It ended up being undercooked in its storytelling once it got to the middle chunk. The flow, in my opinion, was compromised by packing in nods to as many games as possible, and the overall sense of risk only felt real a handful of times. That said, there were some standout performances from Jack Black as Bowser, who even gets a power ballad throughout the film, and Charlie Day as Luigi, who's as flamboyantly paranoid and concerned as I wanted him to be.
Do you think I know every human being with a mustache wearing an identical outfit with a hat with the letter of his first name on it? Because I don't.
Plus, the loving dynamic between the brothers, he calls him Lou and I love it, was the most endearing part of the story when it was there. I actually love the beginning and end because of how they interpreted Brooklyn, their family life, and even some NES-era Easter eggs they peppered throughout the city itself. Again, this thing's largely mediocre, but the elements that I was going for in the first place were handled more than well enough to entertain fans of the games. I say, rent it when it's on DVD. Remember those. So the Lo-Fi Girl channel did something really cool recently. Not too long after an April Fool's bit where she took a much-earned nap, the stream teased some fresh lore with a glowing window in the distance. Eventually, a mysterious stream went public, featuring some retro room fits, a fish tank, and an ambiguous timer counting down to some sort of surprise. Once the thing hit 0, he arrived. A new character in the universe formerly known as Chilled Cow. Currently dubbed Synthwave Boy by devotees of lo-fi records, the stream signals the brand's full embrace of vibey, forward-thinking electronica through this cooler-toned bedroom that's every bit as cozy as its older sister. I think it's really cool and convenient to have this spiritual sibling of aesthetics and musical genre living right next to what I've already dubbed a premier vibe station of the internet. I'm actually listening to it as I record this, and I gotta say, there's indeed more than one way to chillax and study. Oh wait, I'm not in school anymore. Hell yeah, dude. Have fun with your homework. If you're interested in an older video on Lo-Fi Girl that I did about a year and a half ago, you can find a link to it in the pinned comment below. Video game parodies and fanfiction have been an internet staple since the early 2000s, so much so that it can be kind of overwhelming to find truly exceptional work. For me, one of those gems is A Fox in Space, a Star Fox project by animator and Renaissance man Matthew Gafford. This tribute to Nintendo's iconic space shooter is an ingenious blend of post-bebop cool and the rough-around-the-edges Americana of Ralph Bakshi, or dare I say it, Mike Judge, all filtered through Gafford's unique interpretations of familiar characters and jaw-droppingly dynamic voice work. You are not going to believe that something this polished was largely produced by the same guy, let alone the guy doing most of the voices.
These guys just didn't want to take any chances. Where are you taking me?
The first episode dropped over 5 years ago, so when part 2 finally dropped last month, I made sure to watch it on a TV for full immersion, and boy was it more than worth the wait. Put together, the show so far is just under an hour, so when you've got the time, sit back and enjoy one of my favorite things to come out this past decade. No cap. Guys, gals, ghouls, and ghosts, I'm once again late to the party on one of the coolest dang things ever made. But I'm nonetheless glad to have gotten to the party at all, and during the 10th year since its 2014 debut. Over the Garden Wall was an acclaimed miniseries created by Patrick McHale, who had already cut his teeth as a storyboard artist on Flapjack and Adventure Time, based off of his short film, Tome of the Unknown. Over the course of 10 episodes, McHale and his team crafted a world that's at once whimsical, earthy, eerie, and downright terrifying. A gorgeous backdrop for Brothers Wirt and Greg as they make their way through a surreal countryside of strange characters. The cast is stacked with obscure performers and known Hollywood stars who all provide grit and urgency to their roles, and the soundtrack by the Blasting Company feels plucked right out of a different time.
A song rises over the lilies.
I mean, you're seeing this. You know it's beautiful. Don't do what I did and wait a decade to get to this. Take as much time as you would out of the day for a feature film and enjoy a rich and rewarding work of pop folk for the eyes.
Yes.
Based on a graphic novel I'd never heard of, but am now interested in, Nimona has a lot of millennial appeal that charmed me and the two friends I watched it with. It's a pretty effective combo of Shrek's postmodern fairy tale structure, the comic book chaos of Deadpool and Spider-Verse, wrapped in an East meets West art style, which reminds me of Avatar, Korra, and Arcane. While admittedly textured and rendered like a video game, the movie largely gets by on its character designs, color schemes, and fluid animation, especially Nimona herself. Overall, while I enjoyed the first two-thirds, the storytelling storytelling got a smidge repetitive, and even as someone who appreciates the core message, it got a little on the nose even for me. Even if it's for younger viewers, it's still quite obviously aimed at neuropunk queers who watch cartoons, self-report. The stories for which can and have been handled with a touch more subtlety. The final half hour of the movie more than makes up for this though, pulling the rug out from the viewer and raising heavy questions about mythology and how certain groups are perceived. I'm glad this little gem that almost wasn't was ultimately picked up and finished. Here's hoping this isn't the last we see of this world. For many, Christmas is a time of comfort, and nothing's more comfortable than a reliable trip down memory lane. Rankin Bass and Charlie Brown are the true low-budget OGs of the art form, but in the decades since, the amount of qualifying TV has stacked higher and higher. Pretty much any show that lasted long enough on Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network were given a full half-hour holiday special. And hell, on top of having yearly seasonal episodes, the very first episode of The Simpsons was a holiday story.
And what would you like, little boy? You're not really Santa, Tubby. Why, you little... No, Homer.
But hop to the internet age and you've got a similar trend that's just as cozy and comforting, for me at least. I already talked about destroying Little Panda Fighter from IHE. My fondness for AVGN and Quentin Reviews is obvious to anyone with eyes, but in the end, I think the crown for my favorites in this alternative space goes to Homestar Runner.
What?
Their non-denominational Decemberween specials put a sassy spin on the TV schmaltz of yesteryear, in that one-of-a-kind style from the Brothers Chaps.
What? The Deep Impact DVD? You got me this for like the last 3 years, man!
Last winter, longtime friend of the channel, Biodegradable, came to visit for a few days, and among the many films we watched in the apartment was Blue Sky's Peanuts movie. It being as good as it was spoke not only to how vibrant and innovative this sort of animation can still be, even in the era of CG, but just how relevant and prescient the IP is all these decades after its creation. Meanwhile, that eternal Christmas special, which had its 60th anniversary earlier this month, is impressive for the opposite reason. It had a limited budget, a hella rush production schedule, heavily recycled animation, and largely negative feedback before its original broadcast. And yet, its quaint final form, blended beautifully with its humble story, made it a classic of the holiday season and resulted in a lasting series of cartoons and films. Anyway, I'm 32 years old. I've known about this character for pretty much all my life, but I was today years old when I found out that A Charlie Brown Christmas wasn't the first time Charles Schulz's world was animated. 2 years prior, another project with many of the same players, like composer Vince Guaraldi, much of the voice cast, and executive producer Lee Mendelsohn, was produced about Schultz and his strip, though it did remain unreleased for several years.
I really believe that children, no matter where they live, are basically quite alike. But it's also about the pressures which are on these children, the pressures which they get not only from other kids around them, but also from their parents, and then from school, too.
A Boy Named Charlie Brown, which would later be the title of the first feature-length Peanuts movie, is a quick yet enjoyable treat for fans of Charlie Brown. Even by this point, Peanuts was already a household name from newspaper circulation alone, and this documentary gives a charming glimpse into the strip's creative process, while also featuring interstitial animation in more or less the same style that would make it a staple for television. Some of these bits are pretty impressive, actually, since they're in a more compact and focused context, and have a much smoother and lively quality when compared to even some of the early specials. At time of writing this, it's available to watch for free on YouTube, so once you're done with your annual rewatch of that Yuletide tune, give this a watch. It's a lot of fun. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, I'll talk to you again soon.
Charlie Brown is, I think, a little bit like everyone. We all need reassurance that some people really do like us.
I don't know about you, but my holiday this past December was jam-packed, so much so that I forgot to watch the wintry music video that Lo-Fi Girl posted last month. But now that I have, I gotta give it some belated praise. Produced in collaboration with the Spanish studio Sunshine Animation, this upload repurposes a 2019 song by frequent contributing artist of Lo-Fi Girl, WYS. I hope that's right. It's a strong track with a memorable hook and more than deserves to be featured in this polished, anime-inspired short. Using zero dialogue, the piece conveys a genuine sense of nostalgia, wonder for the natural world, and ultimately, as could be assumed in a lot of their visuals featuring this character, homesickness. My freaking heart. It's another intriguing piece of world building, complete with the on-screen debut of our girl's family and a cameo by a certain someone towards the end. The animation looks great with beautiful color palettes and lighting effects, and these character models are incredibly expressive. Hats off to everybody involved, especially the animators. I can't wait to see more. You'd have to be one cynical son of a bitch to not enjoy Scooby-Doo, even on just the most basic or nostalgic level. It's the kind of thing you can watch as a kid, with your kids, or even with your parents because they watched it as kids. It hits this sweet spot of animation that has a little bit of everything. Humor, monsters, pop music, all that wrapped in a retro yet timeless sincerity. But suppose we take those key ingredients and mix it with early 2000s soaps, X-Files, Twin Peaks, and Supernatural. But like, years before that even. Mystery Incorporated takes us to the title super sleuth's hometown of Crystal Cove, in a skewed timeline that acknowledges some of their classic cases while grounding it with the fact that they are teenagers with parents and complex personalities. Yeah, even Scoob. It gets a little weird sometimes.
Stop it, Shaggy. I'm not stupid. Are you cheating on me?
Now, if you're worried that this is some dark, gritty reboot type beat, it kind of is, but it's done in a way that justifies the cliche, in my opinion. If you're a fan of the original shows, it gives you everything you want and then some. And yet, the and then some includes new characters to populate the town, including some pretty big celebrity guest stars like sci-fi legend Harlan Ellison as himself, and Lewis Black as the elusive Mr. E.
The real mystery has just begun.
There's phenomenal animation that can be legitimately tense and scary, cheeky references to past versions of the show, and a chance for returning voice talent to chew on their roles in fresh ways.
Velma, when you were going out with Shaggy, did you ever have trust issues?
He dumped me for a dog.
Like, where does she keep getting these weapons? That outfit has no pockets!
The standout for me, though, is Frank Welker, who's literally been doing Fred Jones since the beginning, and yet the writers find so many new angles to his vanilla leader role in the franchise that it elevates him to one of the most quotable himbos of the modern era.
Why can't I just be cold and heartless like other guys? Why must I feel?
The series only ran for 52 episodes, and on one hand, I would have loved to have seen it go a little bit longer to flesh out certain threads and characters, though I also think it manages to pack quite a bit into what they were able to put out, and I'm happy to say it ends on a solid and definitive note, rather than some cliffhanger that never gets resolved. If you've already chewed your way through Garden Wall, Paranormal Park, or Gravity Falls for the third time, I strongly recommend giving this one a shot. It's a wicked spin on a true OG. This past October, I got through my first rewatch of Over the Garden Wall, which was as comfortingly, unnervingly wholesome as I wanted it to be. It's layered with so much literary lore that it'll reward every viewing, and my partner and I plan to come back to it every year. If you haven't gotten to it yet, you need to. Trust me, you won't regret it. This pocket, though, is a tribute to a character who sadly only appears in the original short film and de facto pilot for the series Tome of the Unknown.
You should see the man.
What man?
A vegetable man by the name of John Crops. Even the name is perfect.
That's you, Crops!
The short more or less follows the same structure and spirit of the full series, down to a personality outside of our band of quirksters driving the story along. This time literally, in a vegetable car. Puns. Back to my man Crops, though, his entrance is up there with the series' best moments, as he does a somber performance of Can't You See I'm Lonely, an obscure little ditty that, at the time of writing this video, is 120 years old. Now, if that doesn't just sum up the agenda of Patrick McHale, infusing some oldest dirt piece of American pop with a post-Cal Arts Pumpkin Man, Gourd Guy, Vegabond, it just works, is what I'm saying. The vocal performance, singing and speaking, is an absolute bullseye from country blues singer C.W. Stone King. Again, the names I'm saying. Who gives Dear JC a smoky, golly gee ma'am quality that we don't really hear all that often anymore.
Why, sir, you're a musician?
Well, shucks. I do play a little.
The character design reminds me of certain snowfolk of old, particularly Burl Ives, legendary narrator from Rudolph, who had a heavenly set of pipes himself. Once given a chance to woo a voluptuous cabbage lady, Crops leaves us with a rendition of Shine On Harvest Moon, a tune I'm already quite familiar with, actually. My late granddad and I bonded quite a bit over comedy duo Laurel and Hardy, whose popular feature film The Flying Deuces included a whimsical version from Ollie as Stan prances around.
Shine on, harvest moon for me and my gal.
This version, of course, plays to the strengths of the character and the performer behind it, making the case that Crops is the single greatest pumpkin-headed folkie ever played by an Australian vaudeville revivalist whose American dad was a scholar, poet, and screenwriter.
Man, that sure was a sentence that just came out of my mouth.
His name would always be recorded in history. It gives me inspiration to sing like that.
This will be the last volume of Pocket Packs I upload here for a while. I was considering doing another one next week, but a big storage scare I had this past Monday kind of backed me up, and there's some stuff that I would like to get underway. I've gotten in some reps between compiling these and the non-capsule shorts I've been keeping up with both here and over on the second channel, which I highly recommend checking out if you want some longer videos and more artsy, contemplative content. Anyway, though, it's time to shift gears into the larger projects that I've been sitting on. We'll see what drops next on here. Maybe it'll be a proper but shorter video, see how that goes. Maybe it'll be a grand drop. It'll depend on the flow. Y'all should watch Flow. That's it for now. Be sure to subscribe if this did anything for you. Peace, guys.